Eternal Dawn. I will be your host today. It is your helmsman, Nick, and I'm joined by my lovely two crewmates. We got Cube. How about you say hello first?
Yo, what up, guys? Hey, man, listen, another rocking chapter. I mean, I think, Oda's on the crazy roll. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about
Absolutely,
this one.
absolutely. And then to the other side of me, we have our head cook, the one, the only, Vexus the Lurking Legend. How are you, sir?
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vexus, the Lurking Legend, but y'all can just call me Vex. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Had a crazy week, and I cannot wait to spit with the homies about this chapter.
Yeah, it has been a wild week myself. I don't think I've had a chance to talk much about this chapter yet with anybody, so I am ready to kick it off. We got a beautiful.
I've been
double
avoiding
spread.
people. I've been actually avoiding people because I had some takes, so I said.
This is not a cover story. This is a color spread.
Color spread,
So,
excuse
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yes,
Loses
color
points
spread,
for me. Because you know me, 5 more years, baby. But
yeah, for sure.
It is actually,
for sure.
it looks pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie, it does look pretty cool.
Yeah, it lines up with the characters, Zoro, Rayleigh, and Kaban and Sanji. It's all pretty cool. Sanji's looking cute.
Is there like a tiny little brook there too, or like,
yeah, hanging off the hat.
Brook's the only one that he's vibing. He is a whole mood right there.
Laugh, isn't he? Yeah, time of his life. I don't know what it's trying to say, but I love these little celebrations.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was gonna say there is something I have no stocks. I said it could be interesting if it could be a place that her family has a lineage to. But you know how people are saying that it is interesting how young Gloriosa looks similar to Nami, like to a crazy point. I won't lie to you. For a second, I thought they drew young Gloriosa on it.
Well, the way she drew Nami or Robin. Face. You only look like one or the other.
That's true. Oda's only got like 2 lady faces in his bag, but
these are the pretty faces.
Know me. If you don't know by now, Rayleigh is top 1, and you should, and he's the best character in all of One Piece. So anytime we get some more Rayleigh, I'm a huge fan. So W color spread, but bring me back to the Yamato cover story. This is 2 chapters in a row now. What are you doing, Oda? What's going on?
Crazy shit must be going down, man.
Right?
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
For me, it's 2 things. Either he finished the Yamato cover story, which we know that there's much more, because why last this long? Yeah, I think something happened, and he's
the non-believer.
He's teasing something.
He's off-screening a cover story though. Like, come on.
That's so funny.
We come back and like time has passed in the cover story. It all happened off screen. I'll lose my mind, man.
Brother.
I mean, and also don't forget, because cover stories like the pudding and Kuzan and Van Orger one, it was basically a cover story that was set like a week before. So this could be interesting. It could be just like I was like the idea that this cover story is happening while they're dealing with the egghead situation.
Right.
Like, it's just a couple of days in the behind. So, whatever happened to this is, what if this cover story will lead to current time?
Anime is knocking out of the park with Egghead, by the way. If you've been watching. Man, oh man.
Oh yeah, it's fire.
Oh, oof.
But yeah, let's
I think the 6 months break.
If I remember correctly, the last one was a full like magazine cover, right? Not just a color spread. So I feel like with those, Oda doesn't necessarily have as much of a say. I think that's from like the Shonen Jump Shueisha bigwigs. With this one, I think he had it locked and loaded, and then they were like, "Hey, we need you to do a magazine cover," and he was like, "Oh shit, okay, sure." But it feels very convenient to me that it's right when the Yamato cover story is like actually juicy, not just juicy for the meme, like for the bit, but like actually
like, who's it?
Yeah,
yeah, totally get that same impression. Yeah, Oda's hands are tied sometimes. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Also another example that obviously, Rayleigh, Zoro is a parallel to Rayleigh and Sanji is a parallel of Gaban. Rayleigh has no eyebrows, just like Zoro, and Gaban has eyebrows, just like Zoro. So I think agenda piece must be eating today. They must be eating. Sorry, I had to.
Oh my. See, I was under the impression that they were going horizontal, like It's actually Zoro and Gaban and Sanji and Rayleigh. But I don't
Oh
know.
my
I guess the
goodness.
community thinks it's the other way around.
I mean, I do think so because look at the background, the colors.
I've only teasing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the
It
fit
does
is
look
sick
like.
though. Like
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah,
all
the
of
definitely.
fit.
the like this like golden jacket thing that Zoro's got going on, it's crazy. Like
Yeah. People always dig into these a lot. Yeah, I've yet to see one of these jackets tell something about a story yet, but they do dig
I
into
think
them.
so. I did see very active member of the community, Mr. Bushido 56, talking about the little armband on Luffy here. It says like Nereida or something like that. I don't like it. I don't know what significance it holds. It apparently means something in Latin, but nothing like nothing I could really draw connection to, and I
Fair.
forgot what it means. So clearly it's not that important in my mind, but it's something to dig into. There's like sometimes there's nothing to dig into on these, but this one little thing right here does stick out kind of like a sore thumb. You know what I mean?
Might mean something, yeah,
Maybe.
for sure. But yeah, we're still going with the this incredible flashback, which has jumped from Loki to Rocks to now giving us shots of Roger and the Kuja pirates. This was awesome.
It's kind of sick.
It's reminding me of the Odin flashback more and more as we get it.
Absolutely. We're getting like just as much boxes from the narrator and seeing a lot of different like happenings and what like, it's so funny because like Roger just kind of usurped Odin's flashback and now Rox and Roger have just kind of usurped Harold's. But I do have a sneaking suspicion that this is important because in a vacuum, if you were to just look at this Kuja section of the chapter, to me, it feels off. But I do think there's going to be a bigger connection other than just like, oh, this is what Shocky was doing right now or something. Because we do see like prime Shocky.
It's
which
more
is really,
than just
really
to
cool.
glaze these characters. There's a reason we're getting to see these.
But we don't really know what it is
from
yet.
The conflict between the two women, like Gloriosa and Shocky, because she was pretty jealous, and she ends up leaving the island, and Shocky becomes.
And we do know that
Empress.
Gloriosa does end up joining the Rocks Pirates at some point, which currently this is giving us that timeline that she has not. Like last chapter discussion, we were talking about how there was no Thin Lin, no Big Mom present whenever he first showed up to Elbaf. But at this point in this chapter, we do see them. So we know that upon the taking over of Hachinosu, Big Mom and Kaido, and even Captain John are now in the picture as of this chapter, but Gloriosa is still not. So, but I don't know. I think there's something deeper to the whole Kuja section here, even beyond that, maybe. I don't know.
So I want to read back Amazon Lily because I think something was interesting. And as you know, one thing I like about Imu's powers is there is a lot of inversions to sugar in a way. But the one thing we didn't see is the ability to make people forget. I went to look back, and it's every Kuja except Gloriosa, the sisters, and Hancock. Obviously, they're strong hockey users. They say that we've only heard legends of men, and even the pirates themselves. We've never, for us, it was a fantasy. It's been stories we've heard for centuries. And Luffy was the first man they've ever gazed eyes. It kind of makes me think of Dressrosa, how people talk about Kyros, but had forgotten that they interacted with Kyros and they were close to him. So I am wondering if those ability of the voice entry is something that's still active and they're still doing it. Not as much as during the war 800 years ago, but you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird because that's a lot of Kuja. You're telling me that they're all gone in those 40 years, or something happened, they forgot.
Right. Yeah, it's not a long time frame, but we do have to remember that the Boa situation and becoming like a warlord and affiliating with the world government probably stopped the Kuja from becoming pirates in the traditional sense too. So like that's at least 15 years without being on the sea.
It's like 12 or something, but yeah.
It's still not a long time. Like I understand it's still very unlikely.
Yeah.
But
So, like I said, it's kind of a weird, and I went back Amazon Lily. They, like I said, it's like 90% of the women almost seem like they've never seen one. So it's like I found that very interesting because it's
I do
kind of a
remember
weird,
that line. Some
their
of the
idols
women on
around
the
the
island
world.
had never seen him, but the pirates, I don't recall if any of the Kuja pirates at the time said the same thing because they deal with the Marines all the time.
So there were some of the pirates that were actually stretching Luffy as well. Pause.
Mm.
Yo.
Very weird. Yeah.
Oda knew what he was doing. But no, I think that the
Yeah.
thing is there is a distinction that I feel like Oda may be trying to deliberately draw between the Amazonians that reside and stay on Amazon Lily versus the Kuja pirates themselves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are of the same descent, but the Kuja pirates, especially during the Rocks and Roger era, were at their peak of power and were constantly out at sea. Whereas the Amazonians, if you weren't on the actual pirates, like crew themselves of the Kuja pirates themselves, you were just chilling. And
Absolutely
I do
isolated
think
too.
that's probably important distinction that I think that might just be one thing that Oda is maybe trying to accomplish with this section, but it's a number of pages here that we spend on this, and I do think there's going to be even more deeper meaning we just don't have full context of currently. It is just really cool seeing like Ace era like Garp and Roger is like he literally looks so young without his mustache and stuff like that. You know what I mean? He looks just like Ace to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
and
is
in the
something I do
officials.
think.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you know how we kept hearing about love sickness, and they tell us about a bit of a very broad way to cure themselves, but not really. I find very interesting what Gloria says, who we know succumbed to love sickness because of a man. She says, "Why haven't you learned your lesson already, Roger? You already have my affection to return." So it's something we've talked about, like what if love sickness is loving someone and losing that love or not getting that love back. I think we're getting a bit of a interesting, introspection of how it works. The fact that it says you have my affection to return, which is, find interesting. That we might be getting answers to love sickness, how it really works.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of
nice.
people talking about the love sickness bits that we got from Boa in the past, and Gloriosa had mentioned back in Amazon Lily that there were two other empresses that had succumbed to it, and one of them, it was even like fatal for them. And we see Tritoma in this chapter actually, which previously was like an SBS only character, so that's
absolutely incredible.
Very interesting, and we'll talk more about her, I'm sure, here in a minute. But specifically with the whole love sickness thing, I think that I feel like that is like something that's just an unrequited, like it's a symptom of unrequited love. It's like if you fall in love and it's like it's not just one-sided, I don't think you come down with that sickness. You know what I mean? I think that is only if it's a one-sided love, potentially.
Yeah. So basically, a love for stalkers.
Crazy. Well, and the thing is culturally, they are so isolated and not exposed to those types of emotions. So it's like when you don't take pharmaceuticals, you have a lower tolerance to them, or if you don't drink alcohol, you have a lower tolerance to it. And so on a generational scale here, they have not been exposed to these types of feelings of affection. So obviously the side effects of that would affect you maybe a lot more, especially if there was several generations worth of like this legend or this lore telling you that it can be fatal. So it just kind of like reminds me of like hypochondria. It's like a placebo type of effect.
Yeah.
Sanji when he came back from the time skip.
Exactly.
Woman.
So I don't think that it's like an actual thing. I think that it's just a collection of symptoms of coincidence. You know what I mean? Of just circumstance.
And it could be said there's something along additional to the willpower affecting people's actual experience. You know what I mean? If they don't believe they can ever be with this person, then that's enough crushing power to weigh down on them mentally as well, and maybe physically.
Yeah. And I had an actual in-length discussion with a few people about, have we seen willpower or even love or other strong emotions negatively affect somebody's health within the story? And there's a lot of people who have, been sick for quote unquote mysterious reasons, like Kaya, who she had the grief of losing her parents, as well as not being allowed to talk to Usopp. And we can assume that both of those maybe were contributing factors to her sickness, because now she is no longer affected by those strong emotions and there were a few other instances as well. I know Toki came down with the sickness and and wasn't able to go to Laugh Tale, but I don't know if that was fully related, but it was when she had strong emotions towards her children. Maybe that was like, I don't know. There's a lot of different examples. And with us specifically not knowing exactly what went down with Roger's health and the fact that Crocus was not able to prevent it, it's like, it's making me wonder if there's a deeper thing there. And I had talked at length about, I'll just trying to keep it brief here. Sorry. But
you're good.
About potentially this being Oda's way of steering us away from that type of romance, because the romance that he intended to imply in Romance Dawn is obviously of the more adventurous side of the definition. It's not the like that kind of love that you experience, like it's not like a Valentine's type of romance, like that Hallmark kind of romance.
New things,
it's more exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe this is him narratively or thematically steering us away from that concept, because a lot of those individuals that we do see experiencing that kind of like Hallmark Valentine's-y type of love are not the pivotal focus of the story, or do end up deceased tragically, which is crazy.
Yeah. Or exactly. Or they end up, we learn that that wasn't the right decision, and for some reason or another, it ends up hurting them in the long run. I like this moment though with Garp and Roger. Roger was all ready to turn his tail and be like, I'm not dealing with this. And then he's like, disregard that order. We're taking him down. This is amazing.
Yeah, the officials worded it a little strangely, and I don't know if I agree with it, but they mentioned that this was the first time they clash here in their youth, and I don't get that vibe at all from this. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to translate it, the Raws or anything like that.
Uploaded the youth. Wow.
Exactly. So I'm actually not sure if I agree with Viz's translation of this currently.
There's a clear conversation of like familiarity happening between the two of them.
Yeah. So actually, I don't know.
So actually, it comes to something I wanted to talk about, because the way they worded certain things in the Oda box, it's something that we've talked about, and it started went back when we were TLA with Fritz, the Ditz, when he told after finishing Wano, he felt like Wano was a retelling, like the one, like think of the Never-Ending Story, the movie, where it's a story about someone seeing someone's journey from a certain point of view, but by reading about it.
Yeah.
This, the way they say this, the first clash in their hot-blooded youth, but also the way they describe them, especially with the rocks. Goldie Roger, future Pirate King, and the father of Ace. Monkey D. Garp, like it's an actual narrator telling us the stuff, like we're showing the backstory of a story you've already read about. Same thing you get with the rocks as well. Future Silver Axe and all of those stuff. Like, why do they have to, like, almost like those moniker, those title? I know, I'm just talking about all of them. You have also like future Grandma Neon.
Yeah.
Like he's telling us who are those people in the story. Like, this really makes me think that right now, even though we're reading One Piece, it isn't in present time. Like, we might be a bit in the future right now, and someone's reading and they're catching up to where they are.
What if that is exactly who it's for, though? The people that aren't completely obsessed with this like us. And they don't recognize these characters in their youth. They need to give them an actual title every time.
Could be that, but yeah, I'm wondering if it's just,
Yeah,
So
I
this
think
proves
that
another thing that we're reading a story, that someone's reading the story.
another way to look at it is that in the boxes, it's often referring to the era and not a
Yeah.
specific time. Like it's not specifically referring to 44 years ago, even though we can extrapolate based off of the previous chapter that that is roughly when this chapter takes place, right?
Right.
And
But
also,
I feel like they're
Shak is
just,
still a pirate. Shak is still a
yeah.
pirate. She stops
Well, and
42 years
then
ago. So
we see rocks at Hachinosu, which we know is dated to
yeah,
44 years ago.
Right.
So like
yeah,
that's the
as
thing
well.
is that so we assume maybe by this wording is that in their hot-blooded youth, this is when they first clashed, but the Oda boxes often aren't referring to a specific time, but more the full period. So maybe they're just talking about like this full decade or maybe even like a
Mhm, as well.
20-year span. You know what I mean? Because at this point in the story, if this is 44 years ago, Roger is like 33 years old. He's been
Yeah,
sailing for a minute. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like Brooke referred to the Roger pirates as those upstarts pre-time skip, which that would have been over 50 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
like Roger's been sailing for at least 6+ years, at least at this point. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So I feel like it's not quite as literal. I just don't know if I appreciate how it was worded in this translation by the Viz, you know?
Yeah. And
It is a
Cody
weird
brought up
one.
something there too. It mentions how he's the grandfather of Luffy, and no mention of Dragon. And I think the TCB even did the same thing. Is there something to dig in there, or are we just being crazy?
I don't think because he's called Dragon his son before, at least
Mhm.
in the Viz translations of it. So I just think that it's
Uh-oh.
more of the thing is like the tales don't like people don't refer to him as Monkey D Dragon. They just know him as Dragon.
Yeah.
So like it was a shock in Marineford when they found out that Luffy is not only Garp's grandson, but also Dragon's son. I don't think these tales of this era would directly tie Garp and Roger together. So if this is the narrator speaking common knowledge, I don't think the dragon being Garp's son is common knowledge at this point
Right.
because it was such a big surprise, 2 years ago.
Fair. Yep. Absolutely.
That as
Maybe,
well.
I don't know.
And maybe
Yeah,
Dragon's
that
not his
as
real
well
name.
as that, and as well like because if we have to go the idea right when we first saw Dragon the flashbacks, it
Big
seems that
cap.
whatever he's tried to done in the past, he failed, right? So what if it's a way of just showing like because they call Ace the Batman of this generation, right? They call him the Batman of the worst generation. He's like the first one who really made a big name for himself for the worst generation, and Luffy is literally like the one, the Raj of this era. So what if they're more talking about those are basically the grandparent, the father and the grandparent of the people that are gonna usher this new era, which is Luffy and Ace. Because Dragon's not the one who failed, so that's why he's not mentioned. It's like the origin story of the worst generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And what we do have to like realize about these types of Oda boxes and whatnot is like it's the same thing as when we heard Sengoku talking about God Valley at the
Yeah.
end of Act 2 of Wano and whatnot, is like this is just what is common knowledge, what has been passed down. And a lot of that can in fact be propaganda. I'm not saying that we can't trust the narrator, but this is the narrator not speaking like earnestly to us like
He's
we
been
saw when
unreliable
he was
before.
yeah, and it's not necessarily that the narrator has been unreliable, it's that the narrator is simply telling us what the public thinks as opposed to the truth, because those two are not oftentimes not synonymous in the world of One Piece.
Yep.
With the whole propaganda machine pumping from the world government. So it's like he isn't telling us the exact facts per se, he's saying this is what the tales say. And so, like, I don't know if this is maybe Oda being a little coy and playing his cards close to his chest, but like, I do think that's important to note about a lot of the things that are being said in this flashback. Is it's not deliberately saying that this is the unequivocal truth. It's saying this is what the public believes. This is the tales that were passed down of this era. And that I don't know. Like I still think that it gives him enough wiggle room for any of this to be not concrete. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Same way with the Egghead announcements and stuff we got, where it was announced Emperor Straw Hat Luffy had kidnapped Vegapunk and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And if we go more into like, if this story right now, like since the beginning, we've been basically, let's say they're in Laugh Tale and they've been reading the story that Joy Boy left, and we're just seeing it's retelling of that same story, right? It could be that Oda box is from someone, whoever wrote that aspect never knew about Luffy's connection to Dragon or Dragon connection to Garp. It's a retelling.
Yep.
Missing information.
Yep. Totally get it. Yeah, the Clash is cool. That line I would like to have double checked by somebody. But yeah. Other than that, what do you think about
I think what's really interesting
Shaki
is
becoming Empress here? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about for sure Tritoma and Shaki here in a second, but while we're still focusing on the big guys like Roger and Garp, we see Roger. Two things that I've seen a lot of people talking about Roger and his ship specifically in these panels is that one, and this is just brief, I don't think there's much to read into it, but it's something a lot of people have been mentioning, and it was mentioned back when we saw the God Valley flashback mid Egghead as well, is that he clearly does not have a mustache in this shot or in God Valley 6 years from now, roughly 6 years from now, but his Jolly Roger does have a giant swirly mustache on it, so that's funny. I was just like, I don't know, I think that's funny to bring up. I don't think there's much there, but I saw people memeing about Sulong Roger and I'm like, okay, calm down guys. But the more important thing about his ship that we do notice is the egg is there.
Yep.
Wait, what?
I saw it too.
Oh my god, I brushed right past that. Oh my god. So
the egg being there roughly 44 years ago, and the egg being there roughly 23 years ago when they went to Laugh Tale and he found the One Piece, means that this egg is around at least 20 years old without hatching. And we don't know how long before this instance that he had the egg as well, or if it hatched when he found the One Piece. So it could still... What is the deal with this?
This is crazy.
It's crazy.
We got the egg again. This is insane. This is insane. I have no idea. I am stumped on the egg theories. It's a big bird, something.
Dude,
yeah, I saw
Luna. I would die of laughter if we found out that the egg is just a decor. It has nothing in it.
It's just decoration. It's like the tree decoration. on the
that would be hilarious.
Oh man, that's an effigy.
Their design.
That's where their power comes from. They just pray to it every day.
I saw Luna PN Art did a video talking about the importance of the egg and like what its true meaning is. I haven't clicked on it yet because it came out like 20 minutes before we went live, but it exists. I'm gonna check it out. I think you guys should too, maybe. But does anyone have any thoughts about the significance of this 20+ year unhatched egg? It's crazy, right?
It's got to be something to do with God.
I'm sorry, Lucas in the chat as
I know
dying right now about the bingo piece stuff, but
it's like, wild. I used to think it had something to do with Elbaf, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, people thought it was tied to an ancient weapon and stuff, and like, and the statement of like we were too early, and I have no clue, dude. Like, but it's crazy that at this point, so far off from when he is actually declared the king of the pirates, he still has it, and nobody's mentioning it at all. I don't know. I do feel like there's something there.
It's the original giant sword that is too
good. No, guys, and I'm sorry I have to do this. I know, Vex, you don't like when I do this, but don't worry, just give it time. We're gonna get an explanation, definitely.
Oh my god. He did it again.
Oh my god. This guy got yolks.
He does it again.
I don't know. I think that it's really something that Oda is just hiding this in plain sight, and I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's if it truly is the giant sword, like kind of trope, and for those who aren't in the know, I put on my bingo card that I don't think we're ever gonna have a direct mentioning of the gigantic sword that's just piercing through the world tree and Elbaf and like the cloud layers and stuff like that. If this is truly just a big fat nothing, kudos to Oda. Like, what a gag, you know what I mean? Because
it's that
we're
egg guy.
Yeah, people are losing their
Cake
minds
Island.
over this shit. Baron Tamago.
Baron
Put some respect
Tamago,
on his name.
exactly. Yes. Yes, that's who it is. This was his OG form. He just took 20 years to reach it.
Oh my god. So you're saying that Roger is Baron Tamago's father?
He took care of him. There's some Hunter type stuff.
Oh my god. No, I think it's really interesting, and like I said, we can assume that this is 44 years ago, based off of us seeing Rocks and Hachinosu and the timelining of the previous chapters in this flashback. But he could be playing around, hopping around with it. Who knows? But that
and I think
literally means that this egg went 20 years without hatching.
Yeah, and the fact that we know that, which is interesting, Shaki retired. Yeah, and the fact that Shaki retired exactly 42 years ago, which is interesting, around the same time that Mihawk is born. Wink, wink. It does feel like it has to be so. Like we're in the same year. We're in the same year.
Yeah, we're around
the greatest
there.
painter. The greatest painter is gonna be born soon. Around that area.
There's one more thing I wanted to say. Wow, that's wild, y'all. There's one more thing I wanted to say before we have to talk about Tritoma. But before we get into her, pause. I did also want to mention that this whole like first section of this chapter really helped, I think, temper my expectation for the flashback. Two chapters ago, before we had gotten so deep into the Rocks stuff, I was like, oh, this flashback could end any second now. What if we go back to Harold in the throne room and see what happens to him and he rips off his horns? Like, this flashback could end any second. Then we started getting deeper into the Rock stuff, and I was like, okay, well, for sure, we know that has to end at God Valley or sometime maybe very shortly after, potentially. So maybe there's a few more chapters left, but the inclusion of this bit that has almost nothing to do with Rocks or Harold or Loki whatsoever, it's very interesting, because I'm like, I wonder how many more gaps in the timeline Oda is going to fill while we're while we're in the ballpark of this era. What else are we? So I'm now thinking we're going to be in this flashback for a minute, maybe like another 5 or 6 chapters instead of like 1 or 2. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it has to lead to 14 years ago. That's where we started from. So we still have like 30 years to go.
But on that way, like,
we got a lot.
See some wild stuff.
Yeah,
God
exactly.
Valley again. Like we could see more Kaido stuff because now the floodgates have opened. We could see more Garp stuff. We could see Dragon. We could see almost anything's
Doors
on the table because the floodgates. Now that we've seen Rocks and things like that, we could see more Blackbeard stuff and like how he's so in the know and how he ties to. There's so many different theories that people are cooking up right now about how he could be a conduit for Rocks, and Rocks is still influencing the current era. Ever since he said the "I'll be back" statement last chapter, like I'm fully on board with it. I could not stand the theories that Rocks is still alive before last chapter. Now anything's on the table for this flashback. There's so much more we could get, and
you know what I'm very curious about if we're gonna get it, because we've only had mention of it, and people like to talk about God Valley, Rocky Port, but we've got a lot of stuff more with this war, the Ed Wars, that's been mentioned many times pre-time skip, between Shiki and his armada versus Roger.
Yeah, I do.
Which
think
I said is very interesting because it has Whitebeard's name on it, the Ed War, so we could get more context of what really went down 28 years ago as well.
It's important as hell too, because chapter 0, I don't think there's anything unimportant in chapter 0. Like it shows a very specific cast of individuals, and I think every single one of them is important in some way that we just don't have the context to yet. So I think it'd be really cool if we did get that context. So I'm here for it.
Harold and Kuma goes to God Valley after White Castle.
That's crazy. But okay, guys, we have to talk about Tritoma.
Luffy's mom.
Yeah,
all right, calm down.
Luffy's mom.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The craziest thing that I've been seeing is like I've heard this like a dozen times since the scans dropped. Is that's Crocodile? I'm like, yo, Crocodile's 2 years old right now in this flashback. Unless we don't have an accurate. Crocodile is 2 years. He's 46 present Crocodile. Day. This is 44 years ago. There's no possible way that's Crocodile, right?
And I won't lie to you.
He gets similar bone structure, you know.
Okay.
It's
the
sweet,
reason
though.
why
This is sweet.
The reason why I was like if Tritoma would explain why, you know, Gloriosa was the one who said Luffy's allowed to be on the island. Right now, Tritoma is directly interacting with Gloriosa. Like that's also what that really like. I always like that possibility, but this chapter is the same person who told Luffy's allowed to be on this island. But the law in Jinbei, you can only stay at the coast. Luffy's only permitted to enter with and then later on Rayleigh, she is accepted because of Shaki. So I find it very, that's why it pushes to me that it could be the fact that it's the same person again.
Do you actually think it's Luffy's mom? Do you have evidence for it? Because I just memeing.
For me, it's just a timeline. The 19 years ago, we know that Hancock was with the Empress on the Kuja tribe when she was taken. So that would have been Tritoma at that time, the same year that Luffy was born. And the year before, we only see Luffy 12 years ago. We never see over 12 years. And the year before that, over those 12 years, Tritoma passes away of love sickness, which I always like, of her not losing the man she loves, but cannot bring her son back with her. And she died in Amazon Lily. So that's why I was like, it is compelling. From all the theories about who could be Luffy's mom, I always felt like Tritoma would make sense.
Yeah, I won't dismiss it, but I was just memeing. I don't actually think it's Luffy's mom yet.
I think it is the most compelling argument we've gotten so far, outside of the fact that, you know, like his bio mom probably doesn't matter, and we know that you know Curly the Dawn is his real mom. But like the Croco dad theory is hilarious. But,
dad, Dragon was no. Dragon was the mom.
Yes, and then Ivankov flipped it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think that it's
Crocodile. Yeah.
I mean, the simple inclusion of Ivankov and their power and the ability to just swap genders and whatnot, and putting them so close to Dragon in the story feels deliberate. I'm memeing. I was like, the thing is like, I don't think it matters. Like, even if Tritoma is Luffy's mom, you know, it's not gonna be important to the main adventure story. If it's important to like Dragon's story, cool, can't wait. Maybe we'll get like
some of the hockey proficiency or something. You know what I mean? Like that's all we'll get out of it, like the bloodline stuff. But Luffy already had his family.
Yeah, for me, I see it similar to how well, not Belmer, but the best example is Sanji. We found out about Sora, but it's more of a context to explain the flashback. It's not like she's a character that's going to be so defined in the current time. It's just to explain, you know, the origin of something. That's as simple as I could see being connected to Luffy, whoever his mom is. Like she gave birth to him, like poor Gazi Rouge as well. You know what I mean?
Cube, Cap's gonna explode.
What?
Lucas is gonna explode if you don't tell the fans are his Tritoma stuff. Say it, he said.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Lucas did some research on Tritoma, the type of plant it is. It is true. The color scheme is red and yellow, which is interesting because it's a regular color scheme for Luffy throughout the story. You have that with his clothes, but also with his straw hat, which I always found it very interesting. It is true. He did bring that up to me the other day.
He was going to explode.
Bruh.
Oh,
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna matter at all to Luffy or to the main story of finding the One Piece or to the adventure that the Straw Hats are on. I find, based off of what Oda has said in previous SBSs and interviews and things like that, it's not gonna matter a lick to present day. I
right.
do think if it does have significance, obviously the biggest area where it would is through Dragon. And
Yeah.
so if this leads to us maybe getting more Dragon backstory, I'm here for it. But I could care less. Like otherwise, other than that, I just literally don't care. She could have stayed in the SBS as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
But yeah,
But yeah,
moving
but
into
it's,
the next bit of the chapter.
Yes.
the boring part.
Got
The
some
boring part.
Oh my god.
Wow.
The
We got some more
boring
L
part
buffs. Dude, Ada is
crazy.
amazing. Like, Ada's awesome. She's so sweet.
I do agree. This was so wholesome seeing her so willing to overlook how much of a shithead Loki is
Mhm.
in his youth. And that was one thing that people were like the Nerida stuff from the color spread. Ida being a character in the current
Mm.
flashback, or one of the current flashbacks. It's sorry, that's a loaded statement that I just said. But also I did see Will of Dreams, shout out to the homie, also mention what I had forgot about is that Nereids are like a basically like a sea nymph, or like they're basically like little sea gods or something like that, like
Mhm.
adjacent to mermaids, or like I don't know, it could be. There's a lot of, like, they've talked about the sea devil, and we saw those figures that everyone colloquially refers to as the Umibozu. So maybe Nereids is important, but I did think that it was interesting that Ida is specifically like on the color spread. You know what I mean? In
Yep.
some form.
Yep.
I'm still on board that she's Mosa.
Me too, man.
I still fully believe it.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, that interaction
Even
is
more so now.
telling. It's like it's the same thing that happened with Mosa.
Yep.
Getting insulted and just seeing the cuteness behind it and not caring about the insult.
That was a sweet
Yeah,
little moment.
I've seen people
And-
saying that the Ida's Mosa stocks are down after this interaction. I was like, I don't see that at all, brother. Like, that's crazy.
Because, I have an idea because Mosa did say that it's a shame we've never met each other. But the way that Loki is with Ida, it kind of makes you think of the whole Almepo, Zoro, and Luffy moment. Since those two people did not have a good impression of Almepo, they kind of forgot him while he was in front of his face. So the way Loki is, it could be that Loki never was open to it. So when she reached out to him, he called her Mosa, which is, some people have said it's almost like a nickname. You know, like it's his way of calling that person. It might not be the real name.
Like when
Loki
Zoro
doesn't know that it's
forgot
Ida.
Granny Kokoro.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Well, I think that
Yeah, like-
it's not even just that. I think that maybe because she had seen in his youth how opposed Loki was to accepting her affection as a motherly figure,
Exactly.
she just probably hid who she actually was, and is just
Yeah, exactly.
pulling wool over his eyes, like which is ironic because he's blindfolded. But you know what I mean? Like, it's there's so many different narrative ways that are so far from a reach, like they're just very within grasp, that make this make sense. Whereas any other Mosa theory, I feel like, is a reach and a half. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the
I agree.
Shirahoshi stuff. I don't get behind that at all.
I agree.
And also, like, if with what we saw like 2 chapters ago, how the reason why they moved to the underworld, like, what if there's a reason why Harujo didn't want to become the king of the giants? Maybe because her mom, you know, is having issues in the community, and it's the only way for her to be protected. It could also make sense why she never also revealed who she was, you know, if she's being incognito on the island.
Yeah. I think it also could be, I don't know, Oda's done it before. It could be like an amnesia thing. She literally mentioned she was traumatized, and that shaped her way of viewing the world in their first conversation when we first got introduced to Loki in the present day Elbaf stuff. So, like, what if that trauma, did also, if I'm not a fan of the amnesia trope, but it's not off the table, like that she could actually fully believe that they've never met. So I don't know. There's so many different ways where it can make sense that I feel like are a lot easier to explain than anyone else being Mosa. If it's not Ida, I hope it's just a new character. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But I'm fully on board with the Ida is Mosa agenda. This is just a brief seeing of Elbath, though, is it very quickly segues to Rock's Pirates and Hachinosu.
Or Kyo, however you want to pronounce it. However you're supposed to pronounce it.
Dude, this is such a sick design. Like, this is what I was expecting to see from Wang Ji, but we get it from Silver Axe instead. So, like, this is crazy, dude.
It gives me Smoker vibes.
People have been saying X Drake because he's got like 5 X's on him. So I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We all know, dude, I'm saying this. The movie Z became even more interesting when you think of what Zephyr did, because that is definitely like, if that is not Zephyr, a different version of Zephyr, I don't know what is.
I can't wait for Viz to color this guy in like Pepto-Bismol pink and baby blue and stuff. It's such a cool design. I feel like they're gonna like give him the craziest coloration though. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
So
bright yellow.
I am gonna bring up something that people, some people like to shout out, oh, this person definitely has that devil fruit from that era, and I don't usually like that. But I kind of find it interesting how the guy hits him, and they're almost the same size, and when he grabs him, he's twice that size. So I wouldn't lie, it does give me the vibe of people been saying, what if he has Yuru's fruit? He's a former user of Yuru's fruit. Because he does get kicked, and he's the same size as the guy, and then he's like 3 times the size, which is interesting.
That's interesting.
That's Oda for you, though.
So I've heard about that. Yeah. I wouldn't put stocks on it unless I didn't see it, but it is true. Like, you can see it. Same size, and then dude is like it's like Doflamingo's height with Luffy.
Yeah, it is interesting. And in this flashback, if it is 44 years ago, Urouge is only like 3 years old. So I would highly doubt that he would have his devil fruit at that point.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and this is the time where the eyes are blown out in the skull to make Skull Island. This is wild. But we get to see this.
This is huge. Yeah, and like they say it looks like a fish. I don't think it looks like a fish at all, but I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's pretty
We
huge.
talk about how so many of these characters have like crazy aura, and then there's just Streusen.
Linden's partner. Bro doesn't even have a title.
It's just this little tiny guy. Like, I don't know. He just feels so out of place, right?
Like, and when we get to this double spread on the last page, it just puts into perspective what we're looking at here. Like, the next smallest guy is like Captain John, and he's like 6 foot tall. Yeah, 7 foot tall.
I'm gonna
and Streusen's like up to his hips.
You guys call him Streusen? I'm telling you this. I thought it was the penguin from Gotham City that escaped and joined the Rock Pirates.
Oh my!
He looks so much like the penguin. He looks so much like
That's
the penguin. It's
so
crazy.
Funny.
Pirate Barbell is a wild addition that I didn't even realize.
Oh yeah, people have been.
He has to be the brother of Sunbell. He has to be the brother of Sunbell. He has to be the brother of Sunbell.
What do you think about him having like Gear 5 hair? Like, this is crazy, right?
It is wild, man. And he's a catfish fish, man. Like, I feel like this is important in itself. He's got the beads
and
on his neck.
In the panel right next to him, I feel like in this one panel, all of the Herald and Kaido like agenda, that whole thing dies right here, right? Like,
you're done.
I feel like there's zero connection between Kaido and Herald.
Yeah,
based off of this interaction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was happy for that. But
although he did call him a
there's something that.
Oh my god.
But this, what gives as well, the storyline we've seen that sometimes when you see a person and you meet their father, if they were a horrible person, that storyline we see that with Wapol, with other people, a benevolent father with a spoiled kid. I'm not saying like this, but it does show that Xebex does have morals. which I've always said that, because of how they describe God Valley,
Here's a code.
a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a code. Like, they don't care about anyone. Sengoku's propaganda. And we think it's the case that he's this horrible person, Zebex, because Blackbeard is that way. But this shows that, because we said, how does Whitebeard could follow someone like that? And it's how some people describe Luffy from the other end. And when they meet him, oh, he's not who they describe him to be. So I do like that for Zebex, it's giving him more context layers.
Yeah,
there's
I think that
grander scheme here, something that obviously Whitebeard can get behind that he thinks could be beneficial for the world.
To speak on Captain John, because we do see him introed to the crew here now. Like I said earlier, Lin Lin and Captain John are officially Rocks pirates here in the Hachinosu era, which this confirms that this is at most 44 years ago. It could be. There could have been a little gap there, but like with the fact that he had acquired a lot of these individuals through Davy back fights, and with this person, it doesn't say in parentheses future Captain John. He is a current captain who likely got taken from his own crew by a Davy back fight, right?
Yep.
So the previous train of thought before we entered this flashback was that Rocks had gathered all of these individuals underneath him, and then Captain John, who was probably just John at the time, had then post God Valley gone and became his own captain. But now we see almost definitively that he was a captain before God Valley. And so I think that God Valley's thriller bark agenda actually gets a little up in the stonks now, right?
Oh, 100. I've been convinced since Egghead, I think.
Yeah. So that's just an interesting thing to note, is he was already a captain. So if he was deceased at God Valley, potentially, then he would, all of the tales of him are already known. He doesn't have to have a life after God Valley. It could have just ended there, meaning that Moria could have also found, I really do think that that's something worth talking about a bit.
And like Captain John's treasure being at a Skull Island, and we see Captain John here now, and we know he doesn't make it much longer than this moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think so. I think you're absolutely right.
So I have something, and I think Vex are going to be very happy because I'm going to be talking about your favorite arc, Thriller Bark.
And
it's something that
he said the thing.
No, because I actually have a theory, so I cannot meme in this situation.
Okay.
So Zebex talks about two fruits, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is the legendary fruit from Elbaf.
Yeah.
What caught my eye is what Whitebeard and what Marlon said. What Strossen and Whitebeard said. So when they talk about the frozen giants, they said, what's the point? If they exist, they're corpses. Yeah, they ain't coming back to life. And he says, shut up, we're talking about dreams here.
Oof.
Yeah, one of the two fruits is Moria's fruit. Fun fact, his last move was called Kage Asgard and Elbathiatfe. And I went to look at timeline. Like I said, it has to be one of the two fruits. Did this be the legendary fruit that disappeared all those years ago? Disappears 14 years ago. I went to look at what Oda has described about Moria. Moria starts his ambition for his zombie army 12 years ago. Lucas has an agenda. When I told him that, he said Moria killed Harold. He didn't want me to share it to you guys. But I am really big into thinking that the Kage might be one of those two fruits.
I thought it was going to be one of the more interesting ones. I don't think it's the Ope at all. I've heard a lot of people talking about that, but for me specifically, if it's not the Kage, which I'm right there with you, Cube, I think that is it's solid basis for it being the second fruit he's talking about. I think that for me though, it's so convenient that they're talking about these frozen giants, and Blackbeard in the current era. One of the most recent things that we've seen him doing was at the beginning of Egghead. He had been talking to Boa very aggressively about using her fruit to unfreeze people. And if he were after Boa's fruit, and it seem very convenient and interesting that he also did make his way directly into the Holy Land. And we know that Boa had received her fruit in the Holy Land. So maybe that is one fruit that he was looking for to unpetrify these giants potentially. and Blackbeard is in the current era echoing that sentiment. So I think that if it's not the Kage Kage, it could be the Mero Mero potentially, right?
Yeah. Another point that pushes that is definitely one of those two. Kage could be one of those two fruits. It would explain why from all the Shichibukai that failed, the only one that Gorosei ordered the Flamingo to go after was Moria.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's huge.
Yeah, that's actually peak. Yeah.
Yeah. From all of them, he's the only one he went. I think of how the Suna is, crocodile's fruit. Just put him in, fall down. We don't care. But Moria, so. And we know Blackbeard wanted Moria to come here. That's why he took Absalom. So I'm not stalking that this is the legendary fruit for sure, but it has to be one of the two fruits. Why mention corpses?
Yeah, the thing with the Moria fruit is like they need Herald to lead them. So that to me means they'll have their own like agency when they come back. So they wouldn't be the shadows that Moria creates. You know what I mean? Because those are slaves.
Yeah,
what's interesting.
Go ahead.
No, and what's interesting is because of Sula Bark, so Moria is doing all this. I'm not wondering if Moria was doing something similar to Xebex, but what's interesting is Moria was waking up Ors, but he also took the shadow of a girl that Loki was in love with, who was suspected to be the next king of Elbath.
There is a lot there.
So what if the reason why he took Lola's shadow was at one point to use that zombie, thinking that Loki. Yeah, if Loki is in love with her, Moria thinks if I have the shadow, maybe he'll fall in love with her, and then use that relationship to control Ors.
That's crazy too, is because he literally had a frozen giant on Thriller Bark. Like, and I did hear another argument. I'm not too fond of it, but it's something, and that's that it could be the Hie no Mi Kuzan's fruit, because again, that frozen giant theming mirrors Ors, and it also Saul back in Ohara. Right. And we know that there were also frozen giants on Punk Hazard that we saw. And for some reason, Kuzan was at Punk Hazard when he mentioned to Smoker and saved him. And he's like, I'm still me. And we don't really know his motivation for being there in the first place, other than maybe licking his wounds, because that's where he fought a Kainu. But I don't know, like there is an interesting line of thinking there.
Is Punk Hazard as well.
Yeah, 26 issues.
And if that ends up being, Kaido's favorite place, like perhaps the reason they even knew about Punk Hazard in the first place, because they went looking.
Well, Kaido had to have been at Punk Hazard because he saved King, right?
Yeah, he was like tested there.
For sure, yeah. Like, so I think that if it's not the Kage Kage or the Hie or the Mero, maybe it's the up fruit. But I think that's, I don't know, man. Like I've heard a lot.
Oh my God.
I've heard of the up agenda, and I don't know if I like it as much as the rest of these. You know what I mean?
Well, see, I'm not gonna lie. Was I mistaken? I thought he said there's 2 legendary devil fruits I'm after. Or is that the different translation?
No. There's 2 fruits. Two fruits.
Yeah.
2 fruits.
And one of them is the legendary.
Yeah,
one of them. Because you know how Kaido just gave himself up all the time when he was a kid, just to eat and have a thing? Yeah. Dude, what if that's why he got captured Punk Hazard? He wanted to be sent there.
Yeah. So Punk Hazard was post God Valley, so it's potentially too that.
Yeah, potentially.
He never got off the island. Wait, well, he had to get off the island. He got the fruit and left with Big Mom. That was like confirmed.
Yeah.
I just think the fact that they're mentioning they're mentioning their MO here in the second to last page, and they're talking about the 2 devil fruits and stuff like that, and like in the same breath, I was talking with Will about this. Will of Dreams in the chat. Shout out to the goat. But the fact that they mention literally in the same breath as those 2 fruits as like one of their main goals is also the unfreezing of these giants really made me think that it was Boa's fruit. So I don't know. Yeah. I do really think that those 2 tie in, and that's a perfect way to tie those 2, like motives together, is if one accomplishes the other in a way.
And Blackbeard was if I'm not mistaken, the only character that Oda has mentioned, like in using Boa's fruit, because someone asked about Boa's fruit and if Blackbeard could use it, and he said, it would be more of a disgust factor than a love thing.
Yeah.
So the fact that Oda's like been like, oh yeah, Blackbeard, if he had the fruit, it would work different, but It's just
And
another
half of this chapter is
hammer in it.
also focusing on the Kuja pirates. So
Right,
I don't know,
yeah,
man. Like,
that's kind of big. It's all coming together. Where's the memes?
it
It's all coming together.
it does seem, I don't know, that's what is sticking out to me the most. I do love the Kage stuff for
Yeah, I think you're
obvious
cooking.
reasons.
I think you're both cooking,
I'm the
actually.
Thriller Bark guy, and that wasn't even the like where my head went first. And you're like the number one like Thriller Bark op Cube, so it's big of you to bring it up. And I
The
appreciate
Doflamingo stuff
it.
is huge. Like the fact Doflamingo was
Yeah.
hired to take him out right after Marineford is huge. Like that's
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me,
I
it's,
think
it's,
that-
it's the same thing. It's Whitebeard, because if you actually listen to Whitebeard, he's someone who's very literal. When Roger tells him his dream, he says, "Dude, that's a chilled story." And now again, I said, what if Whitebeard's type of person who's too literal? He's actually saying, he's not talking like hyperbolic. Yeah, how are we gonna get corpse? Like, what are we gonna do with those corpses? It's not like he's just describing people as almost dead. No, they are dead already.
right.
So that's what it made me think of. Ooh, it's because of Whitebeard said it. It was
Yeah,
not a
I think
figure
that
of speech.
the Kage, I feel like it's like a prototype. I feel from what we've seen of it, I don't think that it is capable of accomplishing what he wants out of the resurrecting of these frozen giants. I think that, but in the same way, Boa's fruit also can't accomplish that goal based off of what we've seen. So I feel like it may be like just an X factor. Like he doesn't know what he's searching for. He just knows what he needs to accomplish with
That's right.
said fruit. So I don't know if he knows exactly what the second fruit is, or maybe he has a misconception, because the Kage fruit, like you said, it's going to be able to resurrect their bodies, but they will only have the powers of the shadows that are put
Right.
into it. So it doesn't fully accomplish that goal unless he knows a way of like awakening the Kage. Like if that's like what the Kage's awakening is, or the Mero's awakening. So it's like it could, like, I don't know.
What if Blackbeard learned from his father's mistake? So he wanted Moria, right? Now he lost it, but let's say that there was something similar with Moria, right? What if this is the reason also why they took Pudding? Because that was what missing with War.
Memories.
He had no recollection of his life.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know, what if you need to use the memo
sick.
with the Kage, and that's what he learned from his mistake. Because we know that he used Absop to drag him on the island, and that kept him alive for some reason.
Yeah. I think it's crazy none of us have mentioned the Yami at all. Like that's also
that fruit.
That could be the other piece, absolutely.
100%. You know, like because we know that Blackbeard himself, somebody who we believe is championing, you know, Rox's quest in the current era, spent 2 decades plus looking for the Yami. Like that was his top priority. So I mean, and we do assume, like it's not assumed from a lot of the community, but I think that a chunk of the community does assume that Rox is devil fruitless. He's just a hockey man. There's a lot of people who do believe he could have a fruit, but it's like nothing's confirmed or off the table, right?
Absolutely not.
So actually, for the Yami, I recently been wondering. So what's interesting is Loki never mentions about being sun god Nika, just a sun god, right? What if there's like other candidates of other sun gods something, like there could be 2 or 3 maximum in the world. We just know of Nika, right? Because of there's a big theme of the underworld in Elbaf. What if the Yami is also connected to Elbaf? The darkness fruit. There's an actual location called the underworld in Elbaf, and we're all assuming because sun god Nika is cherished there. What like I'm just saying this, like, what if the sun god fruit that we're talking about in Elbaf has never been the Nika? It's been another one, the one that Loki is referring to. Because he never says, everyone else in Elbaf says sun god Nika. He never says sun god Nika. I went to look back. He kept saying, I'm the sun god. But he never said sun god Nika. When Oda's like just distracting us, thinking it's Nika. It's another one.
And the fact that the Yami and the Gomu Gomu or the Hito model Nika, like they look nearly identical. Like they're so similar. So, and I've had that theory from back when we got the Who's Who incident with where they had the fruit and Shanks and the red-haired pirates had recovered it from them. Like I thought all the way back then, and I've brought it up multiple times in previous chapter discussions, like what if they got the wrong fruit? and like they thought they had the right, and so like, and ever since we heard about the legendary devil fruit passed down in Elbaf royalty, what if that's the wrong fruit? And I've obviously entertained the thought that it's like there's a Gomu Gomu, like an actual rubber fruit, and there's a Nika fruit, because Oda has confirmed to us that there are like tiers to devil. Like there's the Yuki Yuki that Monet had, rest in peace, the goat, which is a lesser version of the Hiei Hiei, which Kuzan has. Like they're both Logias, they both have very similar powers, but one is just in a caliber above the other. And we've seen like the Kilo Kilo and the Ton fruit. There are greater versions of certain powers, and if there is like a legitimate Gomu Gomu fruit, and then something that we just thought was the Gomu Gomu fruit, but was actually the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika.
Yep.
And I don't know, like I previously thought that I was for sure on the OG Gomu Gomu train, but it could be the Yami because they do look so similar. And I feel like Oda's done a really good job of like making me confused as hell about what it could be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
won't
the
lie
Gum
to
Gum
you.
fruit
I've always
doesn't
wondered.
exist in the books.
He said it wasn't in the books, but the books might not cover everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with this is so both the Mera users, people with the Mera Sabones, they were connected to the Mera at a time after and interacted with the Nika user, both of them. So it could be that the Mera and the Nika are connected, right? As you know, I do have this idea that I think Zebex was a previous user of the Gura, right? But something always bothered me, and I'm going on a bigger train of thought, right? For some reason, 20 years ago, Blackbeard knew that if he stays with Whitebeard, he'll attract the Yabi towards him, right? What was something that happened during that time that maybe the strongest man of the world back then was Zebex? And it doesn't mean to be the Gura, but something else. But because Whitebeard became the new Zebex of this era, right? He knew he would be the only one to attract that power. Like the darkest will always attract to the strongest. Like he knows something about it, and that's why he knew Whitebeard would bring him to him. Like he knew that it was this pirate that I had to follow, because this is who he is in the story right now. This could explain it, like how he was sure 100% that he would get it by staying with Blackbeard or with Whitebeard for 20 years. You know, he stayed 20 years. He was patient. So what if there's something, you know, like that connects Zebex and then that pass out with Whitebeard? That they would always attract the Yabi towards them.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the most interesting part of the chapter is the whole two devil fruits and frozen giant stuff here on the very end.
Yep.
I think that the Tritoma stuff is like, I straight up don't think it's important at all. Especially compared to these two big plot threads here. And I don't think that Rox himself is going, like, obviously, I don't think he's going to accomplish either of these two things in his life. And I think that we won't get more context on these things immediately in this flashback until somehow this all connects to Blackbeard, right?
Yep. I agree with that.
So that's like my kind of final thoughts for this chapter. I think that it's kind of just it's compared to some of the other chapters we've been getting in this flashback, this one really just feels like fluff to me in a lot of sense, except for that one page where we get these. Yeah. So I do think that we won't really fully be able to appreciate what's set up in this chapter until we see how this all ties into current day Blackbeard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that might be how this ends, is obviously with Harold pulling off his horns and getting iced, unfortunately, rip. But I do think that we will see somehow how Rox is still affecting the current era. What does it mean? Like, I'll be back. I really hope we do get that from this flashback, even if it's just like a half reveal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about you, Kube?
No, I think for me, I think I said everything. It was I like this chapter more than the last ones because yes, it's a bit less lore dump, but it kind of gives me like the OG One Piece chapter that we love. You know, there's some bit of lore, there's a bit of fighting, but a lot of comedy throughout the whole thing. You know, it's just a fun read. Like I
Yeah,
was
it
laughing.
absolutely
I won't
was.
lie. The beginning of the chapter made me laugh. Honestly,
Oh,
the
the
whole
Loki and Harold
Shocky.
stuff, or Howard and stuff, made me crack. I was
Yeah.
dying.
Oh no. Oh no. Me. It was like when Shocky appeared, and then Gabon falls. Says, oh, and then you see Roger says, and then I won't lie to you. People are saying, "Yeah, dude, that is not Roger." The Roger's face was Luffy at the bath scene in Alabasta when Nami flashed them. It was the same reaction as Luffy, and I missed those times. Just the goofiness of them all. So
Yeah,
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 great chapter for
yeah,
me.
absolutely. Well, like I said,
Uh,
for me at the beginning of the chapter, I really getting the Odin vibes from this flashback, and I'm here
For
for it.
sure.
I got to feel that this is a lot like this chapter told me, like, we're in this for another few weeks yet. Like, we got to see how all these things come together, like how this all affects Harold and Loki. And well, that being said, we do kind of get Loki's ambition through all this. Like, we knew Loki wanted to join Rocks, but we didn't know why. We now know why. Like, that's one thing we can take away from this flashback. We know why Loki was in love with Rocks. Um, and seeing all these
hey,
characters
yo.
could just be like extra exposition to this timeline, and we're not actually going to get much more from each of them other than this, which is fine. Like, it's fun, but I can't wait to see. I want to see God Valley. I said it at the beginning of the new year that I want to see some more God Valley this year, so this would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, like we had said earlier, now that Rox is actually introduced and revealed and we're getting more on him, this just opens up the floodgates for so many other reveals that Oda has not been wanting to give us until this like keystone character that like fits into so many of these mysteries, right?
Yeah, huge. And like, so many, it's a pillar of this world is Rocks. He brought all these people together. All these people then it went in turn and created the next era of the world. And then in turn, from the people they influenced, created the generation we're witnessing now. And Oda's weaving it all together beautifully.
Yeah, actually, yeah. There's one last thing before I give my rating and everything.
Sure.
It almost, because of how we found some, with the Silver Axe have Yoruja's fruit. We found some of them like this Wang Ji is connected to Karibu, is the one that looks a bit like who is it Thriller Bark as a zombie who looks a bit like Apu, is Dar Marlon, connected to Beige. It kind of almost makes me think that this backstory is supposed to tell us is the origin story of the worst generation. Because let's not
Right.
forget, we're in an era where those rookies are they're making more havocs than the former ones. This could be like the OG, the original story for them.
Yeah.
Like this is
The
what bred the
inspiration.
worst generation. Yeah.
Yeah, like Will just said in chat, it's all a cycle. And
Yeah.
yeah. I wouldn't go crazy with the rating of this chapter, to be honest. Like 7 out of 10, 6 out of no, probably not 6. 6 is a little too low. 7.5 out of 10 is where I'd put this chapter. Personally, I don't really have a lot to talk about because we were just kind of given bit like little nibbles of everything. You know what I mean? Like, we got to see Tritama for 2 panels. We got to see the Kuja versus Roger Pirates for 2 pages, and then we got to see Garp and Roger for 1 page. So yeah. 7.5 out of 10 for me. What about you?
For me, honestly, I'm gonna keep my bounty ranking. I have to be just compared to how I rated so high the previous chapter. Even though I love this chapter in terms of everything we got, I have to give it one of Sanji's first bounty, 7.7.
Damn.
It was too much teasing and not enough, like everything. We had a bit of everything,
Yeah.
but not enough of. So I could either give it an 8. It's just too much teasing.
Yeah, like for
Yeah, what about
me,
you, Vex?
setup chapters are the ceiling of a setup chapter is like an 8, unless you're like the mural, which is like 10, obviously. And if we go off of like the mural as the standard, the mural had the last page, which was unlike anything we've ever seen in the story by far. But like the rest of the chapter was also still hype. And a lot of setup, like separate from just that one page. For this, like the Roger and Garp clash was kind of hype. It wasn't as hype as I kind of was hoping, like, but it was kind of hype. The real thing though is just this last page of the chapter, and I feel like it carries. So if we're grading this against other setup chapters, I think the highest I can give it is a 7, which is by no means a bad score. But I do think that this is like just some brevity in between some of the hype we've been getting and what is still to come from this flashback and the rest of Elbaf, you know?
Right. I like to think like when I'm rating these, if I was to sit down and watch this as an episode of something, like I would have felt like I needed more.
Yeah, same.
That doesn't mean it's not great, but
I think it's the first time that we've all have a ranking that's very similar. Usually there's always one like that's 1 or 2 numbers on top or lower.
But yeah, where's Lucas? He's got a 10 or something after last week.
Dude, there's a Kuja tribe. You know him. He's a lover boy. This is definitely 11 out of 10.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I appreciate everybody for being here. I'm I appreciate y'all for putting up with me for hosting this stream, and I hope you had some fun. Thank you, everybody. Please like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Kube, take us away.
Yeah, we'll see you all at the next sunrise. Bye.
Nice.